First trip since the beginning of the pandemic. So, almost 4 years, a lot can change.
Yeah.
Certainly, the question about cash is one that is very relevant to many foreigners going back because they've really switched over to mobile payments. And so cash is not really a thing. And until you can figure out how to get around, it can be very tricky. But the main thing I want to say is that many of us who visited before didn't realize
Those
was
guys
possible
over
in a place like
Beijing, that was unusual for me.
is that it's not always clear. There's lots of new things that have come into that category of a red line, including words like constitutionalism and Western democracy. There is a recognition that maybe they have to be careful not to cross these lines that are shifting and may be the kind of thing you only know once you cross it. You know it when you see it. In China right now, because many of them got kicked out, a lot of the stories we're getting out of China tend to focus on sort of the high politics and the restrictions. And all of those are true stories. But if we had more foreign scholars and more foreign journalists in particular, I think you would get a deeper sense of all the complexity of life in China, which does include, as you said, a lot of openness and a lot of respects as well. So one of the themes that I really pressed on a lot of my Chinese interlocutors is that we really should have not only foreign scholars return, but foreign journalists, so that the stories that come out of China can better capture the full range of things that are going on there, and not just focus on the troubling things that are real, but are not the only part of the story.
Well, surely part of the story in China is the economy. It has been slowing structurally. It's not going to grow as quickly as it did before. Youth unemployment, something like 20%. And there are a lot of stories online about young people losing hope. They feel in a big city, I can never afford an apartment. Did you feel any of that?
For sure, the economy is not doing well, and anecdotally, perceptions of the economy not doing well are quite strong. A lot of my friends and colleagues would talk about how both in their own personal lives and in their institutions and their sense of their friends and families that there is this economic tightening. I think when people like you and me who have spent a lot of time in China in the past think about how our Chinese friends kind of thought of their futures back then, I think there was this sense of kind of rapid economic growth and the sense of possibility that afforded. That is largely gone right now, and I think it is a problem for the regime that they're probably aware of, but they need to think how to address it, given that they've also put all this emphasis on security, and some of the things that they may need to do to restart the economy may not be in accord with their tightening political space.
You have mentioned how frequently U.S.-China relations came up. Help us understand how people talked about the U.S.-China relationship.
Yeah, this was really quite remarkable that almost every conversation I had would at some point have a dimension that would focus on U.S.-China relations. And it's important to recognize the way that we talk about China in the U.S. right now is heard by people within China, including very reformist, open-minded people who are not at all strong supporters of the regime, but at the same time are turned off by the way that we talk about China in a lot of our political discourse here.
That's fascinating. Do you have an example?
A very dramatic moment for me was when I was speaking to an old friend of mine who is trained in the U.S., has spent many, many years studying law in the U.S. and has very elite degrees from the U.S. and is constantly in communication with U.S. legal scholars, very much a reformist type within the Chinese system. And he was telling me about how negative all the time rhetoric from the U.S. was turning him off. And he said to me something along the lines of, Mason, if you lose people like me, you're really in trouble.
You know, one China scholar you and I both know, who went to China, came back not long ago, Scott Kennedy.
Sure.
His observation was, with fewer people going back and forth, fewer exchanges, positions, say in U.S.-China relations, they get hardened, they get calcified. You start to assume the worst of the other side. Do you agree?
excellent points. I couldn't agree more. You know, one example I can give you of that is the way that they discuss the balloon incident in China.
Wait, time out. How did the conversation go about the U.S. government overdoing the balloon incident? I mean, the balloon came from China.
Of course. So, you know, their perspective is that the U.S. government maybe played it up more than was justified. But, you know, when you're in person, as I was, and I could hear that point, then it was easy for me to push back and say, look, if you in China were to look up and see a big balloon in the sky from the U.S., it would also be a big political problem in China. That's the kind of thing that you can do in person, not over Zoom, not over telephone calls, but when we're actually sitting face to face.
Is this kind of the future, though? That is, fewer American journalists being over there, fewer international business persons, consultants being in China, and conversely, fewer Chinese students and the entrepreneurs from China coming to the U.S. Is that where we're going?
There are people who are more pessimistic than me who think so, who think that is clearly the direction we're going. I tend to be an optimist, and at the very least, I think we are in a moment right now where we can at least try to change that direction. There is strong support in the rhetoric of both governments at this moment to restart exchanges, to restart student exchanges, to restart scholar exchanges, and to get business exchanges going again.
Nason Mahboubi is a research scholar at the University of Pennsylvania, and he's just come back from China. Thank you, Nason, for sharing your thoughts, sharing your notebook with us.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Also on today's show, we're remembering the great Tony Bennett. He died at the age of 96. Tony Bennett spoke to our own Robin Young in 2012, and we will air that conversation. You can find it at hereandnow.org.
For 90.1 KERA News, I'm Bella Cyrus. The new film Barbie might look pretty in pink, but it also tackles heady themes too. Listen for a discussion of the director's vision and the legacy of controversial doll. That's coming up in 10 minutes on KERA News as well as the KERA app.
North Texas news, weather, sports, and more. Wake up with KERA News. Everything you need to know to start your day, delivered to your inbox each weekday morning. Subscribe now at kera.org/wakeup.
On the next Fresh Air, we remember piano virtuoso Andre Watts, one of the first black superstars in classical music. He died last week at age 77. He was only 16 when Leonard Bernstein invited him to perform with the New York Philharmonic. Overnight, he became famous. We'll listen to my 1985 interview with him. Join us.
Tonight at 7 on 90.1 KERA News.
Funded by you, driven by facts. NPR in North Texas.
90.1 KERA News and KERAnews.org.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and your NPR station. From MathWorks, creators of MATLAB and Simulink software for technical computing and model-based design. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And Angie, dedicated to helping homeowners find skilled pros to get their home projects done well. From everyday repairs to dream remodels. Reviews, pricing, and booking are at Angie.com or on the Angie app.
AI is creating careers we might not even see coming. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech. I'm Megan McCurdy-Carino.
Marketplace Tech is supported by Angie, dedicated to helping homeowners find skilled pros to get home projects done well. Reviews, pricing, and booking at Angie.com or on the Angie app. and by Financially Inclined, a podcast from Marketplace is all about money lessons for living life your own way. Listen to Financially Inclined wherever you get your podcasts.
All week, we've been reporting on the ways new generative artificial intelligence tools like chatbots are changing how we work in our series AI on the Job. Today, the new careers this technology is helping to create. Fields like
Consultative sales AI.
Sridhar Mari had been working in tech and customer experience for years when he got an idea for a new business last summer. His daughter was getting ready for a party after her college graduation and had been searching for just the right outfit and accessories online.
She wanted something very effortless, cool, and any cosmetics would be not tested on animals. They have to be eco-friendly.
She scrolled and filtered and sorted, but still couldn't find quite what she was looking for. So Mari decided to create the solution, an AI chatbot that could recommend products based on conversations with users. The new company is called Flyfish.
They bring in this humanized experience and multi-turn conversational capabilities. But what is Flyfish bringing to the table is the hyper-personalized product recommendations.